Getting promoted soon? Here are these 5 secrets to succeed in your next manager role. Now that you've got the great news of a forthcoming promotion, you should start preparing your next move. As a manager, your scope of responsibilities expands, but so must be your hard and soft skills. Here are these unique tips to ace your performance in your next professional act. Welcome back, folks, to another edition of Sweetie Kiwi. I'm very happy to have you around. I hope you are doing fantastic. I'm doing marvelous. And if you are doing as marvelous as I am, go grab a cup of coffee or tea or vodka and let's roll. Now, the first secret is to understand the role of a manager. You know, if you used to be a subordinate, now that you're a manager, you got to understand what a manager does. You want to distinguish a manager's role from the function, because those are different things. You might be still doing the same job as your ex-colleagues, right? But now you're the manager. So your role is more different. Your role in terms of hard skills and soft skills is different. So you got to understand the difference between the role and the function. You also want to understand interpersonal, informational, and decision roles, because not all managers are executives. Not all managers are, decision makers, right? Some managers are put there because of their strong interpersonal skills. Some managers are put there because they are very expert at something. They are a fountain of wealth when it comes to data, when it comes to information. So they are informational managers. And some managers are great because they are good at leading people. They are good at making decisions under stress or under normal circumstances. So those people will be put in what I will call a decision role. All right. Now, this is very important to understand. It is critical to understand the distinctions here, because the manager's role is very different from the non-managers. Right? As a manager, you're not coming to work just to perform your task. You have other responsibilities. You must look over and oversee the work of others. You must not only oversee the work of individual workers, you have to also oversee the work of the team, right? While also maintaining a good balance of emotional synergy among team members, operational synergy, and even more difficult, it's not difficult, it's more complex. You need to report to the higher ups, right? So you are constantly evolving in a 360-degree sort of shuttle, if you will, because as a manager, you must be able to develop and unify team members. That's what I spoke about earlier when I talked about team chemistry, team synergy, emotional synergy within the team. You must be able to plan strategically, which is very important when it comes to talking with the higher ups, when it comes to talking with the different stakeholders, whether they are within the company or outside, right? Whether they're clients, suppliers, regulators, financiers, lenders. You must be able to set goals. You must delegate responsibilities, and delegating is not as easy as people think it is, because delegating doesn't mean that you're not accountable. If the person you delegate the job to doesn't perform well, you are the ultimate person held accountable, right? As a manager, you should also provide meaningful feedback, right? And effectively communicate. This is very important. So if you're able to, understand the role of the manager, and you're able to learn to confidently acquire and build these skills, you can really, really, really succeed in your role. Secret number 2. So secret number 1 was understand deeply the role of a manager. Number 2, build a shared, mutually beneficial vision. Now, if you are a manager, the first thing you want to do is have a vision. And you want to couple that with having a mission. It's very important. People think that it's only companies and organizations that need to draft and brainstorm around a mission and vision. No, if you are a manager, if you are an executive, if you are a boss, if you are a leader, you want to have a vision and mission, because this is those are the two cornerstones around which your team will coalesce. Those are the two cornerstones around which people will come to identify you as a great performer or just an average. So you need to define a shared, mutually beneficial vision. Now, mutually beneficial because it has to be beneficial not only to you and your career, it has to also be advantageous to your team, to your superiors, to other stakeholders within the company and outside the company. So you got to define that shared vision with that in mind, thinking about the shareholders. I mean, the stakeholders rather, not the shareholders, even though the shareholders are also stakeholders. You want to build a strong vision. You want to create and communicate a vision statement. Like I said, it's not just a vision statement. You have to also add to that a mission statement. And the last thing you want to do is you want to be very clear about the benefits of your vision. This is what will make it shared and mutually beneficial. If you're able to explain to folks the benefits of your vision, people are more likely to embrace it in the short term. All right, I'll be right back right after this. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, folks, to another edition of Sweetie Kiwi. I hope you are doing fantastic. I just want to talk to you today about a very interesting topics, and those are the 5 secrets that you need actually it's 6 secrets, not 5, 6 secrets that you need to have in mind while moving into your manager role here. So, number 3, understand leadership and influence. Those are important qualities a manager must have. You need to identify the characteristics and qualities of a leader. I'm not just talking about a generic leader, but you yourself. What kind of leadership style do you want to implement? Do you have? Are you an introvert? Are you an extrovert? Your personality traits will impact the kind of leaders you want to personify, right? So you have to identify the characteristics and qualities of a leader, but use that to sort of model, to sort of shape your own leadership style. You also want to model the way. You want to give a strong vision. You want to point to the future, and you want to enable others to act, which is very important. The ability to empower your team, the ability to, here we're talking about influence here, right? We're talking about the ability to subtly, to discreetly empower your team and make them act and make them move in the vision that you would have, in the direction you would have defined. You also want to be able to encourage your inner innovator, and you want to master the art of persuasion. That's what great leaders are good at, right? Great leaders are able to persuade their teams to move along. They're able to surround themselves with the best of the best and convince those best of the best to move along. This is fantastic. You also want to be able to create mutual respect. This is very important. Respect is an important element in someone, in your desire as a manager to create an emotionally a workplace environment that has emotional synergy. So mutual respect. Another thing you want to do is you want to effectively communicate and reason with others, right? So what I'm trying to give you here is that I'm trying to familiarize you with the subtleties of leadership and influence, and you have to understand those to excel at your next job. Secrets number 4 out of 6. Nurture talents. It's very important to calibrate talent. You need to identify and calibrate talent within your team. In other words, if we were to follow the bell curve, right, where we say in a normal team you have the majority of folks are average, and then you have the outliers, right, the ones who need some development in terms of hard and soft skills, and the ones who are just outperforming. So you need to nurture talent at various levels along the team spectrum of skill set. Don't just focus on the the promising rising stars and the outperforming members. No, you want to be able to take a whole look at your team and see how you can improve everybody at their level, at their pace. One thing you want to do here is that you also want to find and nurture the attributes that meet your requirements, right? Earlier I was talking about defining a vision. You want to be a leader. You want to lead by example. You want to know exactly what kind of leadership you have. You want to influence the team. You need to identify those assets within the team, those people who have the attributes that meet your requirements, because those will be your evangelists, those will be your supporters, those will be your fans. So you need to promote and empower them so that they can actually convey your message even louder to the rest of the posse, to the rest of the team. You need to articulate culture, and you need to articulate an HR policy for a cultural fit. What I'm trying to say is that, by having the proper vision and mission, you can actually couple that with corporate values, and this should define your culture. And if you define it properly, you articulate the criteria needed to mesh within that corporate set of values, you should be able to hire for a cultural fit. You should be able to identify applicants who match this cultural fit. One thing you have to do is you have to be prospective here. Look to the future, and you want to develop and execute a plan aimed at nurturing talent. Another thing you want to think about when it comes to being a good manager is think about succession planning, right? Because now you've been promoted. Maybe 3 years from now you might actually be promoted again, or 2 years if you're that good. So you got to constantly think about succession planning so that you're not actually in a dead end. You're not in a cul-de-sac where you can't move anywhere because you haven't thought about coaching someone to replace you. You also need to create and foster employee engagement. You need to find platforms. You need to define platforms that allow your team members to express themselves, to speak their minds, to tell you what's good, what's not. And last but not the least, you also want to coach. You want to mentor your team members. You want to develop them. You want to train them. Whatever it is you need to do to make them better professionals, better staff members, do it. All right, I'll be right back right after this. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, folks, to another edition of Sweetie Kiwi. I'm very happy to have you here. We're continuing the conversation today, and secret number 5, delegate and empower people. Right? I've already talked about delegating. I've already talked about empowering people, but you want to delegate. You want to work with work groups and teams, right? You want to understand the possibilities that lie between delegation, because delegation is powerful. It's a win-win proposition when done properly, right? You are not only empowering a subordinate, but you also freeing up your own resources, your own energy to focus on more important things, right? Now, while delegating, make sure that you're able to track progress and review results. Number 6, be a star. Become good at communication. You want to build better meetings. You want to be able to plan and prepare a meeting, right? You want to be able to have in the room the right people, identify the proper participants. This is very important because as a manager, your job, your task list will be much, much higher. You don't want to waste your time. Another thing you want to do is you want to learn how creating an agenda beforehand can help ease the strain on your resources and make meetings and presentations much more impeccable, flawless, if you will. And think about technology. Nowadays we have multiple apps, multiple technological tools that allow you to, essentially run a great glitch-free meeting. So think about them. You might use them if you need to. All right, folks, this is basically today's conversation was about. If you love the content so far and you appreciate the value we've been giving you, please consider subscribing to our channel, The Sweetie Kiwi Show. Turn on the notification bell so you can be informed whenever we drop a new mail. Comment below, share and like. We want to hear from you when it comes to, promotion. Have you gotten a promotion recently? Were you promoted a long time ago? How did you manage to excel? How did you manage to hang on in your current position? Give us your tidbits of info, your 50 cents worth of financial advice or professional advice. All right. So here is a recap of today's conversation. The 6 secrets to succeed in your next manager role. Understand the role of a manager. Build a shared, mutually beneficial vision. Understand leadership and influence. Nurture talent. Delegate and empower people. Build better meetings. And today's call to action, because in every show we like to have call to actions for our listeners and viewers and fans to be able to have a takeaway so they can work on some specific things. Here are a few things. You want to get to know your employee and what they want, right? So you want to get to know them at a personal level and professional level. Communicate constantly, right? You want to listen to your employees as much as possible. Be a motivator, be a role model, right? And I'm just saying, also be a leader, not just a manager. I explained to you the difference here, right? The differences. So you want to be a manager, but also, and most importantly, a leader. While doing that, while managing other people, while helping other people improve, make sure you improve yourself also, right? Find ways to have a good quality of life, a good life and work balance. Acknowledge success and celebrate success, right? And the last thing I want you to think about is just to be human. You're just a normal person. You are flawed as we all are, and just accept sometimes that there are limits to your possibilities here. Okay, I will see you next time. This was today's show. I will see you next time. Thank you so much for listening to me, and until then, I will say, stay marvelous.